Wayne Delchafino. Judge Daryl Jordan is charged with official oppression. Our Andy Sirota is live for us in the newsroom with how this case got to this point. Andy.
Lauren, veteran former investigative TV journalist Wayne Delchafino feels vindicated. Tonight, he is calling on the state agency that investigates judicial misconduct to take disciplinary action against Judge Daryl Jordan.
First, I'm glad the record's been set clear.
Former investigative TV journalist Wayne Delchafino reacting to a grand jury's decision to indict Harris County Judge Daryl Jordan for official oppression. In June of 2020, Judge Jordan held Delchafino in contempt of court and had him thrown in jail after accusing him of interrupting proceedings, with Jordan claiming Delchafino demanded to interview the judge.
You want to hold me in contempt for simply asking questions? Go ahead.
New video later came out that Delchafino had recorded with a pen camera at the time, showing the confrontation lasted only 2 minutes, with Delchafino wanting to know why a request for documents wasn't being acknowledged.
If I did not have a hidden camera on me that day, Judge Jordan would not have been indicted. No one would have been able to sort of argue about the violation of my rights that day.
Delchafino says he believes Jordan sentenced him to 3 days in jail in retaliation for investigating a county commissioner and his wife, and that the judge wanted to make a spectacle out of him.
You're interrupting court. Either you leave or I'm going to hold you in direct contempt.
Well, then, Judge, you do what you got to do.
Attorney Brian White.
All right. Let's see here. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Let me get everybody here on the same area here. Oh, looks like Taran drew the short straw. He's on bottom. Welcome everybody to the Piss Off Parent Show. Hope everybody's having a good evening. Got partners in crime here, Mr. Jeffrey Morgan and Taran Champagne, and we're going to be talking about why no cameras in the Texas courtrooms. What you heard recently, or what you heard just a moment ago, was a news report from Mr. Delchafino, who had been arrested and put in jail for contempt of court for 3 days, based on the judge, Daryl, oh boy, what was his name? Brooks? Whatever. Jordan. Yeah, Daryl Jordan. There we go. Sorry, names and all that. But he had claimed that Delchafino was being rude, belligerent, whatever else, and Mr. Delchafino had a pen camera on him recording what actually happened. And that not only exonerated him, we had indictment charges that were filed against the judge. Unfortunately, as if anyone's followed that story, they know that their good buddies, the DA, decided to drop the charges. Is not enough evidence. But I think we all know kind of what's going on here. Anyway, wanted to kind of jump in and have a discussion about the cameras in the courtroom, why we don't have them, what's going on with that, and how can we make a change? I mean, hopefully we can, introduce legislation or do something to make a change and force judges into accountability. So I don't know who drew the shortest straw. I mean, Jeff, you're on top, Taran, you're on bottom. That sounded weird when I said that, but who wants to jump in and go first?
So I mean, before we get into anything, I do want to caveat that the three of us are not attorneys. We're not offering any legal advice. Any information we are reading to you is from laws that are publicly available, and for any case law that's available. We are not, once again, we're not attorneys. We don't offer legal advice. We are simply regular human beings, and
Speak for yourself.
We have a brain in between our ears, so we can read and comprehend what's written.
Hey, Taran, I would also like to say that I wish these attorneys would start acknowledging that they are not psychologists. They are not child experts in child psychology and everything else. They act like they are experts in all sorts of things, like they know the best interests of children. They don't have to disclose that. They can just continue to put this facade over on the public. We have to disclose that we're not attorneys, and anything that we do, no legal advice. That nothing that we say can be construed as legal advice, but they don't have to give the same disclaimers, and I've always wondered why that is. But anyway, that's just a little aside there. I mean, you listen to these attorneys, and the next thing you know, you ought to say, well, pastor attorney, because they try to give you spiritual advice and moral advice and all sorts of advice. But that's off the topic that's off topic of what we're talking about right now.
Well, I mean, I think really kind of to level set, kind of what's going on. There has been a large debate, at least here in Texas, and I believe all three of us have been involved in that debate regarding cameras in the courtroom. So let's start off with the Texas Constitution.
All right. Pop that
If we
up
could
on
bring
the
that up,
screen.
Dwayne.
Let's see. I believe we got that pulled up. Oh, yeah, that's the pandemic one. We'll get to that. There we go.
Under the Texas Constitution, there is Article 1, which is your Bill of Rights. What rights do you have as a citizen of Texas? Of key importance is going to be Section 13. If you read, it's the second line there. It says, all courts shall be open. I want to say that again. All courts shall be open. Not all courts unless Catherine Mousy doesn't think it's allowed to be open. All courts shall be open if Judge God Dustin Howell doesn't think it should be open. And I may be speaking from personal experience here. A quick YouTube video may or may not confirm this, but all, meaning every single one, shall in legal terms means must be open. End of story. The courts shall be open. If Dwayne wants to walk into any court and watch what's going on, he should be allowed to do that. And I think it's also important to note that not only are they open, but we as the public need to be watching because we are the only real check on the judiciary.
And we are the owners of the court. We fund them, we pay for them. They are our courts. For these judges to think that somehow like these are their courts, we understand they have a position within the courts, but they have a position within our courts. These are our courts. We have cameras that we have purchased in the courtrooms. We have audio in the courtrooms. We are paying the judges' salaries. We're paying their retirements. We're paying their healthcare benefits. They are our servants. They are not our judge gods. And so absolutely, I would agree with you 100%, Taran.
So we've kind of set kind of big picture, right? The courts are open, or they should be open, and pretty much anybody should be able to walk in and see what's going on in them. So kind of let's now go to the overall topic of what's going on here in Texas, or at least in the family courts. So basically, right now, your only record when you go into court is from a court transcriptionist who basically they type out what is going on during the hearing, what everybody is saying, unless, of course, they're speaking too fast or two people are speaking at the same time, or they're corrupted, or, whatever excuse they want to give.
They've confessed. I'm sorry, I'm not catching all of this. I'm not getting all of this.
So anyways, so they have that, and because there is a possibility that these transcripts are doctored, or they're missing important parts, or maybe even the transcripts are unable to portray what is happening, we have long argued that people need to be watching. Jeff Morgan has a great quote where he says, "Friends don't let friends go to anti-family law court alone." But we also need to have some sort of recording, because those transcripts do not portray body language. They do not portray the tone of voice, anything like that. There's nothing recording there. And if, for example, Dwayne decided he wanted to be a real mean guy and was making mean faces at me while he was interrogating me on the stand, or he was shouting at me, none of that will show up in the transcript.
Right.
We live in 2023. We have gone through a global pandemic of the coronavirus, and we have seen that it is very, very easy to broadcast things online. We did it for, 2 years. So, Jeff, do you want to go into the background in legal standards? I think that's one of your favorite documents to ever come from the Honorable Roy Ferguson.
Yeah. Can I just add one other thing first, though, Taran? I think what is very important that we'll pretend they got the transcript 100% accurate.
Okay.
And yet, I've got a master's degree in communication. Most of our communication is nonverbal. And just to reiterate what you said, some people say up to 90% of our communication is nonverbal. So even if they get a perfect transcript, 100% accurate, best that we have is 10%. Because the other communication takes place, the nonverbal stuff. And I want to also add one other thing, Taran, before we go into this other document here, is that when you are on a stand like this, different people have different abilities to cope with it or whatever. But a lot of times, first time I got on there, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's if you say anything incorrectly, if you breathe incorrectly, you might end up in jail. You don't know. So you're already under pressure and stress to begin with. And we need to be able to have some type of protection. Right now, it's really awful because we go into the courtrooms, and the courtrooms are a very dangerous place. What you say can be used against you. What you say, you could almost be considered committing perjury when you're not committing perjury at all. It may be you're up there, you're thinking, and your mind flashes back and forth. You miss some facts and everything else. I think it's very important that we have the transcripts, and I think that as well that the people that are being questioned, I think there should be better accommodations made for them, almost like the ADA accommodations, because to some degree, it can be a very traumatic experience if you're not used to this. And as an NCO, both of us are NCOs, Taran and I, when I work for the federal government, we have interviews when they interview us, and they always tell us, once they ask the question, listen to it, write down your thoughts, and ask them to repeat the question. Because basically in that way, you're controlling what's going on with your interview, or if you're sitting in front of a board. We don't get that same opportunity a lot of times. And if we ask them to repeat a question, an attorney may get angry. Attorney may get threatening. And again, these things are not communicated. So anyway, like I said, the nonverbal communications are not recorded in the transcripts. And the nonverbal communications comprise the majority of the communications that go forward. So anyway, I just wanted to add that to confirm what Taran was saying. It's a very important issue. But the background and legal standards, what do you want to know about it?
Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. If you want to bring that up, Dwayne, and Jeff, we'll let you start, because I know you, Jeff, have used the background and legal standards in many attempts to get the ineffectual State Commission on Judicial Conduct to actually do something. The Office of Court Administration issued this document near the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in order to provide guidance in a new system that really nobody had experience in.
Right, absolutely. One of the things that I found very important in this document, so it was written again primarily by Judge Roy Ferguson. I think it's a 254th or 394th, I'm sorry, for primary authorship on the document. And he was talking about the background and legal standards, the public right to access remote hearings during the COVID-19 pandemic, the public's rights. We own the courts, we are the public. And what he stresses throughout this is that the public has an independent right to access their courts and basically to see the operation of their courts. This is something that we have the right to do. And I argue at the same time, if we have the right, it's an obligation that we have. We want to make sure that our courts are doing the right thing. And one of the things that actually a Supreme Court justice, I think it was Justice Brennan, said that public opinion is an effective bulwark against judicial injustice. And so we have that right. It is our independent right. The litigants don't want you to see that I'm sorry. That's nice to know. I appreciate that. But it is our right. And every time a judge shuts us out of a courtroom, they are violating our rights. Now, so far, they're not really talking about that, and they're not really acting on it the way that they should be. Because we've had examples, like, for example, in the Jeff Younger situation, that we've tried to access the courts. And Judge Mary Brown, formerly of the 301st, I think she's in a new court right now, intentionally shut out the public. And when you shut out the public, what are you concealing? You are concealing something that you don't want other people to see. She's violated our rights repeatedly. And when in the in the secretiveness, in the darkness, that is where evil takes place almost all the time within these courts. If they have nothing to hide, they have nothing to hide. Be transparent. Let everybody see. And if they do something that's tremendously awful, we should be able to correct them. I remember during the COVID thing, and I'll let you talk then after, Eric, Taran. But I mean, during COVID, remember Shelley Luther? She got up there. She was opening up her barber shop, her salon, and Judge Eric Moyer, another great judge in Dallas, did not like her tone or something like that. Well, what had happened was, Dwayne and Taran, maybe you know this, maybe you don't know it.
I reported on it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very familiar with that one.
Yeah, because I tried to download it, I couldn't download it, so I played the whole thing over. I recorded it on my computer, and then there was a certain point that I edited the document because it was showing what I thought was his misogyny and his racism. You white honky woman, you're not giving me the deference that I need. And you could see people would see the video and then look at what his eyes are doing. Look at the nonverbal things. Look at what's going on here. Well, anyway, I sent it to him, and that's when he pulled down the entire video. But at that point, I had the whole thing, and it's still up there. And I think that would Eric Moyer had done that if he knew that the entire city of Dallas was watching his every move? I don't believe so. Because a lot of these judges, they're judges, they're honorable judges. When they're acting dishonorably, we need to have the right and the ability to call them out on it. And they are our servants, they are our judges. We should have the right to fire them. Our legislature should have the backbone to investigate some of these people and get them out. But every time you file a complaint with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, they want to see what your evidence is. I've sent them video clips of the actual hearing, and they still don't look at it. Well, it's not, there's not enough evidence. We have to continue to advocate for cameras in the courtroom. And I would say not only that, we need to ask that these videos remain online for at least a week to give people the ability to see them. The Texas State Supreme Court leaves their videos archived for years. I go back to the Texas State Supreme Court and I watch things. Chris Clay's case is still up there. I've gone back and I've watched that. I've talked with the Supreme Court Justice about it. And he says, well, you're an odd duck. Well, maybe I'm an odd duck. I don't know. But the thing is, I want to know, how are our courts acting? Is our Texas Supreme Court acting in a righteous manner? Are our family courts acting in a righteous manner? We know the answer to that already. That's no. But we have to be able to look at our judges and create better accountability. And we've seen some judges, I believe, that have improved because we have filed some complaints against them and they've said, well, you know what? I was told I have to do this now. Good. You should be making sure that you are protecting the rights of the individual, and the rights of the public to access and to observe their courts is paramount. If we deprive the public of this access, we deprive the public of being able to exercise their check and balance against the evil decisions, unjust, immoral decisions sometimes that are issued by these courts. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a little bit heated over this, but I'll let you continue on from there, Terry.
So Dwayne, if you could really quick bring that background and legal standards up, I want to point something out that's on the first page. It right there, the press and the public have a similar independent and right under the First Amendment to attend all criminal proceedings in both federal and state court. It continues on. It said the Supreme Court has never specifically held that the public has a First Amendment or right access to civil proceedings. Continue to scroll down to page 2. Federal and state courts that have considered the issue have overwhelmingly held that there is a public right to access in civil cases under the First Amendment. Once again, we're not attorneys. I'm just reading to you what's written right here by the Honorable Roy Ferguson, aka Lawyer Cat, or Lawyer Cat happened in his thing. So there's that. This document, if you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. The issue of Zoom hearings and everything like that, in many ways, are currently becoming moot because the judges are trying their best to basically put the toothpaste back in the tube. We can bring this down. but they are now trying to bring everyone back into the courtrooms. And the reason why is because, quite simply, we can see what's going on. We could see them beating people up, and we have evidence of it. Not physically beating them up, but, sanctioning them, taking their kids, retaliatory actions. We now have evidence of this, and they're trying to assert that, well, since we're back in person, we can, move back in person where they can prevent people from recording, having cameras. On that note, though, I do want to say this. I've said this to many people. Alex Jones can get cameras in his courtroom, but how come little old Taran Champagne or Jeff Morgan or the pissed off parent, how come we can't get cameras in our courtrooms in our cases?
Well, what I found interesting was that when the pandemic hit and people transitioned to Zoom hearing and putting those out there on YouTube, that did open up a lot of eyes to what was actually happening, because not all of us are like a Jeff or a you, where you can actually go to sit in all day, because it's a time consuming, expensive process to view, to sit there and court watch. With this, we have the technology to, kind of paraphrase a $6 million man. We have the technology to where, we can have those Zoom hearings transmitted over YouTube, and the general public can view and see what's going on and do it as a check and balance, but also to verify that, hey, our judicial system is working the way it's supposed to, and there's no shenanigans, as I like to call it, that the decisions that are coming down are fair and just and go along with the population's morals and all that. And we did see that for a period of time when all this initially happened. People started putting on YouTube. I mean, actually, I believe pretty much every court had a website set up. The technology exists in those courtrooms right now, and because they had been doing it. And then after information started coming out that they weren't acting in the public's best interest, then all of a sudden we started having some challenges. I think Mary Brown's would be a great example, a great example of a bad example of that happening. But why are these or judges? Why are these courts? And I guess I'll pick on family court. Why do you guys think that happened? We have some family court judges that still do it to this day. There's a number of judges that have their information out. They get it. They understand that, hey, this promotes public trust. It promotes well-being amongst the population. So we do have some judges that do it and don't have a problem with it, but then we have some judges that have decided not to do it, even though they signed on that they would do it. We had a number of them that for a while wouldn't do it. But anyway, go ahead, Taran.
So do I think these judges actually believe in, public trust and blase? There are probably a select few that believe in it. My viewpoint stems from my viewpoint of a lot of people. Those judges are lazy. They want to stay home just like everybody else, right? Your companies are
tired, wore out, all day.
Yeah, it's easier.
The two old guys here are staying up, just so you know. I don't know if it's
I already had my Geritol, so I'm sleepy. But anyways, the judges don't want to go back into the courtroom because it's a hassle driving downtown. If you're in a major metropolitan area like Dallas or Austin or Houston or Fort Worth or whatever, they don't want to drive downtown to get there. Anyways, but right, so oh man,
mine's downstairs.
Anyway, so they don't want to drive into town to do that. It's a pain in the ass or the neck.
I don't know. Keep it, PG.
Yeah. So it's a real pain for them to do that. They're lazy, just like everybody else. Let's be honest.
But let's be honest about judges. Yeah, but let's be honest as well. Our legislators are lazy about this as well. Between the three of us right here, we probably have more experience knowing what's going on in our family courts than the entire House in Texas. They do not go into the courtrooms. I think it should be mandatory for our representatives to go into their courts at least once a quarter. Mandatory. Spend an entire day there. How can they exercise the ability to be a check and balance on the judiciary if they are not there? And I'll tell you, part of the reason as well is because some of these legislators are also attorneys. They don't want the game to be blown for them.
Well,
but go ahead.
I
Let me
mean,
just go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, not only do they not have the experience or not do the checks, but even when we've contacted them, when there are issues happening at that very moment. I mean, I get it. They're busy, but they got minions. They can send their minion to contact them. They're not interested in it.
Right.
And so this is why, and this is why you need to have some sort of protections with you. We'll get into more about this later, but I was just court watching, or, I was serving as a witness and everything like that this week for a friend. And I noticed the judges have the bailiffs. They're armed to the teeth. They've got their body armor. They've got their handguns. Some of them have ARs. They got dogs. They got whatever. You have nothing to protect you. The only thing you have to protect you is a recording. Because they will do whatever they want to you. And that's why we need cameras in the courtroom.
Right. A judge could throw you in jail for doing nothing, for just being there. And the bailiffs, whatever, they will listen to the judge, even though you've done nothing to violate the law. And I know, because in the same situation Taran's talking about, I was threatened with contempt of court. And as Taran would mention, we went into the courtroom. I think going in there were between 6 and 8 police officers there. Now, the courthouse is right next to the county jail, so I understand. I'm not against them being able to protect themselves and protect the people in the courtroom. What I fear, though, is that a judge can command one of these people to take you away, and if you resist, what are they going to do to you? This is something we have to be protected. But the other thing is, as well, is that we have to expose not just the corrupt judges, because sometimes there are good judges. We've got to acknowledge that not every judge is bad, but there are corrupt attorneys. And I think that when Karen and I talk about this just a little bit further, we will watch. We can both testify about an attorney that we believe is an abusive attorney. He will do anything, say anything to try to slander, to character assassinate somebody, to slander somebody. He'll make up stuff, present false evidence. And he is violating, I believe, his attorney code of ethics, the Texas Attorney's Creed. I believe he's violating it. And Dwayne, we go and we seek relief. We go to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Almost every single complaint gets rejected as not enough evidence or whatever. And they look at it over the course of maybe a year or so. We go to the Grievance Oversight Board, and I don't know what they do as far as how much they investigate these attorneys. We will find out soon, because I know we have some complaints that will be filed very soon. I've gone to the Texas Ethics Commission. You know what they tell me? Well, we cannot give you the disposition of what we have decided, but keep filing. Seriously? They should be accountable to us. And we do need to have this protection, as Taran is saying. We don't have any body armor. We can't take weapons in there. We can't do anything. We can go in there and be bludgeoned legally and abusively by attorneys and also by judges. And we are going in there thinking that we're going in to help somebody or to testify on behalf of somebody, and we are basically getting tied up to the state and being bludgeoned by these people. It is completely unacceptable, and our legislators do nothing about it. And the only way that we're able to bring some awareness to it is to record, video record, audio record, and publish, because this is very abusive what's happening in the state of Texas.
Well, what I find interesting, and you were mentioning it earlier, and I wanted to come back around to that part of the discussion, is when you file an ethics violation or some other violation against to a authority, and they ask you, well, you don't have enough evidence. Well, if we had cameras in the courtroom recording, you would have all the evidence you need, and then tying that into we look at judges and we hold them to higher standards. Well, let's look at police officers. We hold them to a higher standard. And there's, I think, 5, 6 bills right now talking about body cameras for police officers. Those body cameras have been used to exonerate police officers and used to condemn them. Because we live in a society that unfortunately your word is no longer your bond at times, and there's enough bad actors that we need to have that accountability. Um, I'm just trying to also understand why some judges or a lot of judges are resistant or hesitant to allow something that just, it seems to make just total sense to do that. I've looked at the counter arguments, and some of the counter arguments are if someone's testifying, if there's a camera there, they'll feel weird. They may feel even less likely to serve as a witness. They can serve as a distraction, where counsels will play to the camera. I mean, we saw that in the OJ trial to a degree, or that may change tactics there. I just don't think that's enough to then take away that having those video cameras in the courtroom. I mean, again, we have the technology; it's existing today. We built this entire infrastructure that we've paid for. Why not use it? It just does not make sense.
So, Dwayne, I've heard one judge that said, well, we don't want to have cameras in the courtroom because you might selectively edit the hearing to give the false impression. This is Judge Tom Novak out of Collin County, and he's another Republican. He's considered to be a good judge, supposedly, but he defends having no cameras in the courtroom. And it's like this thing that happened the other day that said there is one official record. Well, I don't care if I'm an official record or not. My record should be a check and balance against the official record, because we talked to so many people that have said the official record did not accurately reflect the testimony that was given. And if it does, we should be able to say, okay, here's my audio, here's the transcript. It lines up perfectly. That's fine.
Well, in Michigan, when the people that go to court, when they walk out, they're handed a burned DVD of the proceedings that they can take home and do whatever they want to with it.
Right.
It's odd that Texas doesn't do something similar.
See,
I mean,
go ahead.
Everything is bigger in Texas, probably including the corruption.
Injustice, yeah.
True. That's very true.
We've got to be honest. Texas right now is living in 20th century technology. We're in the 21st century. This is a very easily solved problem. And let's also be honest as well. Who are the lobbyists for the court reporters? Steve and Amy Bresnan. Same exact people who are the lobbyists for the Texas Anti-Family Law Foundation. Same exact people who are the lobbyists for the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. They've found a niche. They want to keep the entire industry protected. Dwayne, when you go in there and you say, well, if you want to get a record, you can get a record from the court reporter. And how many thousands of dollars does that cost you? The most expensive books in my library are court transcripts. And I'm talking about, they're all at least 4 figures. And some, I'm sure that others have spent 5 figures for their court transcripts. And they give you a PDF. You don't even get it bound. You have to print it off if you want it that way. $6 a page, I think, is the going rate, and everything else. And yet these court reporters are being paid by the state for their position. I don't know where's this money going as well. And the thing is that you see people there. That's fine. I'm glad that they do some of this stuff. But we also know by watching the Zoom meetings and other meetings, you can have a transcript right beside, almost simultaneous as people are speaking. Why are we in the 20th century technology when we're in the year 2023? This is absolutely insane and ridiculous. And we've paid to have our technology upgraded. We have paid for this, and it's not being used in the way that it should be. Now, trust me, Dwayne, if you were in court and if you got upset and you said something against a judge or whatever, the video would be there. We have the video of Dwayne assaulting a judge or getting upset with a judge. All of those things they would have it there for a minute. But when we want to have the transcript to say, listen, we have had our rights violated, it's not available. How about that? But you can pay. If you want to pay $5,000, $6,000 for transcript, then you can try to prove it. And they're not going to do anything with it anyway.
Why can't we have both?
We can't have both.
I mean, it's really quite simple. It's not that hard. It's just they are so afraid of their corruption being exposed. I think I'd like to cover some information related to open court doctrines and the media and the press's right to the courts, and then I think we can go into some examples after that, unless you guys have some better ideas. But um, so the issue of the public's right, because once again, it is the public's right to be in the courtroom, has been addressed um, multiple times, right? So
Mhm.
relating to that, you have to realize that the Supreme Court of Texas has recognized both the press and the public's right to attend civil court proceedings. This was recognized in Dallas Morning News versus the Fifth Circuit of Appeals. This
Right.
case was in 92, where they stated recognizing that the press and the public have the right to be present at all proceedings in the trial of the underlying case and to report what they observed. Another one where they addressed this was the Star Telegram Inc. versus Walker. They note that recognizing that its test prohibiting prior restraints in civil proceedings preserves the press constitutionally sanctioned right of access to judicial process. Now, relating to that, this is a free speech issue, which is in Davenport versus Garcia. They noted that numerous federal circuit courts have determined that the First Amendment of the Constitution protects a public right of access to civil proceedings, just as it protects the right of access to criminal proceedings. Doe versus the Santa Fe Independent School District, discussing the Third, Sixth, and Seventh Circuit decisions and concluding that the right of the public to attend civil trials is grounded in the First Amendment as well as common law. Once again, these last two specifically, I believe, are federal case
Mhm.
law, which holds more weight. Once again, how many of you actually knew that there's two kinds of law? There's the law that's written on the books, and then there's this whole inaccessible side that is the case law. But kind of wrapping it up, remember, when it comes to closing the proceedings, right, there's actually a 3-step test that's required to overcome closure in a criminal case. Now, I would argue this should apply to those civil cases, but it's not been. I can't find anything on it. Once again, I'm not an attorney, so maybe I'm just not
Right.
good at research. But in Houston Chronicle versus Crepito, it noted that in order to pass the constitutional muster and overcome the presumption of openness, a trial court must 1, identify an overriding or compelling interest, 2, make findings sufficiently specific for review that the exclusion of the public and or media is essential to preserve higher values. I don't know what higher values is. I'm too normal. But the third one is consider whether alternatives to total exclusion or closure are available in order to narrowly tailor the solution to serve the identified interest or value. They straight up ignore this.
And what was interesting is during the pandemic, we had judges, actually locally for me, that even though they signed a document that they were presented with, they still did not open or do the Zoom hearings when they were closed. Now, there has been the counter argument, like to bring all sides into it, though, that since it's over, the courts are now open. I think we're all familiar with the shenanigans of Mrs. Brown's court, where she, I think, moved a TV out into the room and said that suffice, I won't be doing a Zoom hearing. The part that just keeps bugging me is that we have the technology, we pay for the technology, but yet a number of judges will not do that public presentation. And getting back to why won't they do that? And I know you guys have said it, that there's obviously something to hide, but it erodes the public trust, and then people just have a very distrustful. I mean, that's with the whole police situation. Without getting into specifics on that, that's why the cameras, the body camera scenarios, why that's become a bigger deal over the years. Is the public has lost trust in the police officers, so they have the body cameras, and those are used to exonerate or condemn. And I think we all know, it's probably speaking to the choir or preaching to the choir on this one, is that nationally, actually worldwide, we have lost faith in the entire judiciary from a number of these cases where judges are being busted doing improper things, lying, falsifying documents. Of course, we know Dulcifina's, very visual. We just we're at an all-time low of confidence in our judiciary. Why can't we get this changed around?
Not only that, but if we can't trust the judiciary, how can we ensure that there is, fair and equal justice being meted out? If people do not trust their government, that is the start of planting seeds of a revolution. And I'm pretty certain no one wants to go through a revolution.
No,
Certainly
I don't.
not here.
Too old.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to deal with that.
There's something else in that document that Roy Ferguson wrote. It says on page 3, the court should not close the entirety of a hearing from public view in order to protect a single witness or topic of testimony, because the court must apply only the least restrictive measures to protect the overriding interest. Only specific portions of a hearing or a trial that meet this exacting burden may be conducted outside of the public view, and that only in rare cases. Appellate courts have reversed judgments when a single less restrictive solution existed but was not considered on the record. So Dwayne, you were asking about there's I can't remember exactly what I'm sorry, I got a little bit I got taken away there when I was switching screens back and forth. But this is a very important issue, once again, the issue about trust. It is the burden of the court to deprive us from not being able to see and witness the hearing. Even if they do not let us witness voir dire, that is enough in itself to mandate reversal and a new trial. And there are very many, Taran mentioned some case law. There's the Richmond newspaper versus Virginia. There's one right here that I have up, Smith versus the city of Cumming in 2000. There are so many issues that so many opinions that back us up. So we've got to say this: our courts are operating in a lawless manner, and our legislature is permitting it. That is the bottom line, which also makes you say, okay, if we can't trust our courts and the legislature is doing that, how can we trust our legislature? And Dwayne, I mean, I've come from a place that I want to trust in some type of a higher ideal, the ideal of justice and everything else. I've had to tell people that have been running for judicial offices, my trust is negative. If in the next 2 years you could bring me up to 0, you will have accomplished a lot. And Dwayne, I'm not the only person. There are many people who are much better than I am that feel the exact same way. And this is tyranny, what's going on in our courts. And, there's other stuff that involved this as well. I know that I see some of the people on here making some comments. There's a lot of case law out there that defends us. And really what we should be doing, we should almost be petitioning our government, redressing them in a sense, because what is going on right now is completely unconstitutional. It's violating our rights. We have rights. Litigants have rights. If a person's guilty, fine. Let them. We have to prove their guilt.
We have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I am of the belief that I would rather see, 10 guilty men walk free than one innocent man go to jail. That is what makes our country a beautiful place, that presumption that you are innocent until proven guilty. The problem is we don't have that right now. We no longer have that, especially in civil court, in family court. And without cameras to back that up, you got nothing. I would argue that those cameras and being provided with a copy of that recording would also help those who are less financially capable. There's that old adage that you can only get the justice you can afford. If you can't afford that transcript, you can't get an appeal. You can't do nothing. You can't do anything.
And Taran,
you are screwed.
Taryn, I want to add something else here too, because I think, like we know that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct has failed. We know that and they've always have an excuse. Oh, there's not enough money. There's not enough this. The legislator's not doing that, and the legislature is not giving them enough money. Their budget is maybe what 1.4, 1.5 million. They should They should increase that at least by 10 times. It should at least be 15 to $20 million. And there's ways that we could do it very easily. I think judges should contribute to it. I think law firms should be, any law firm that contributes to a judge's campaign should be required to give at least a 1-to-1 donation to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Because of course you would not want to have law firms buying justice. They would never do something like that. So the only way we can really make sure is if you buy a judge, which is what's going on with a lot of these law firms, you need to also have a safeguard against you, which would be the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, so that we can make sure that you really are not buying influence with a judge. But there's other things as well. We talk about some of these things with the hearings. Like, the other day when Taran and I were there, I would like to go in and subpoena the video recording of our testimony in front of this judge. It should be made available. And I think what we could do, and this is a very easy solution, and it would cost the state nothing. In fact, it would help the state. They could train volunteers that would have a certification, like we're the SCJC eyes and ears or whatever. We would have an exacting training. They would certify us. These are certified SCJC allies, and we would have our badge with us, but we would conceal it. We could walk into a court, and we would know what we're looking for. And if we saw something that broached that was some type of judicial incompetence or misconduct or something like that, we could leave and say, "Hi, my name's Jeff Morgan. I am a partner with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I am now subpoenaing this videotape for this purpose, and you have to provide it within 10 days." Because right now, if we do not buy our transcripts and submit them to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, they have no evidence to look at. It's perpetuating the system. The whole system is based on deceit and fraud and greed. And the attorneys, who sometimes are our legislators, who are writing these laws that are protecting these people, they know it. So there are very easy solutions, Dwayne, but our legislators do not want to listen. There's a few that want to listen to us, but the reality is, it's kind of like, how am I going to stand against an avalanche of evil? I can stand. I'm probably going to be swept away. I'm probably going to be buried in it. But, we have to start talking about these issues. We have no trust in the entire third branch of government. My trust in the third branch of government is negative. And you know what? The reality is, everybody knows this. We have talk show hosts that have been talking about this, but they're talking about it at a different level. We're talking about the family court system. The family court system, the laws are not even constitutional half the time. It's not, like this idea of best interest of the child. What does that mean? Nobody knows what it means. It means whatever some stranger thinks it means. And there's no definition. And the people that give a definition are attorneys that know nothing about it.
With what you were talking about, because actually a comment here, and I want to get to some of the comments here that Ricardo asked. All parents in domestic proceedings are presumed innocent. I'm sure you guys are already starting to smile because you already know this is going. Innocent of criminal accusations unless or until the state in criminal proceeding proves guilt beyond a reasonable doubt pursuant to a criminal complaint, indictment, and then no court. So the rest of the comment here is no court may do something here unless there's a crime been committed. Who wants to take that one?
I just want to laugh because it's not true. Parents are guilty. Parents are guilty until they're proven innocent with overwhelming evidence.
Maybe they're innocent.
Maybe. And what is the difference between a situation here where they're talking about criminal proceedings or civil? What's the difference between those courts and the court that we've grown to know and love?
Okay, well, I think, Jeff, this is a perfect segue into kind of what we witnessed this past week. You want to start with that, Jeff?
So on Thursday we went down to Williamson County for a mutual friend. We went in there. We were both willing to testify. We went into the court, and for the court was dealing with a protective order. So protective order is not a family court, right? It's a criminal court because protective orders carry criminal consequences. As Assistant District Attorney Leslie Levy from the same Williamson County has told us, it's very easy to get protective orders. So
There's
anyway,
no 50% burden of proof that the way the law reads is there should be a burden of proof of being 51% in order to grant a protective order against someone. But real quickly is to answer Ricardo's question. The difference is that when you're talking about criminal and civil court, family court is courts of equity, which basically, you know, a better way of putting it is it's, you know, the Wild West. Essentially, they can there are rules, but a judge can do whatever they want to, the, you know, best interest of the child or whatever they want to make up. So there's not, when you walk in, there's not a presumption of innocence. It's again based on the way that court of equity works. So you have to think about it differently. There's no Matlocky criminal, civil, nothing like that. A court of equity operates completely different. Anyway, I
Ray,
just wanted to,
let me correct you on something here. We need to
okay.
quit using the terminology. These are courts of inequity. Well, we know that.
I'll agree on principle.
Data,
I'll agree with you. Yes.
The data actually shows that these are courts of iniquity. I'm sorry, iniquity and inequity, both.
Right, iniquity and inequity. Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, so to the point, right? So we were in allegedly a criminal proceeding, right?
Okay.
Criminal court. However, there were some criminal attorneys involved regarding defending our mutual friend versus a family law attorney. Based on my limited observations, once again, I wasn't in the courtroom, but to serve as a witness, they were completely unprepared, and they didn't realize that civil family law court has essentially no rules. If I remember right, there was a time when I was in front of Judge God Dustin Howell, where I noted that because I had filed a special appearance according to the rules of civil procedure, the special appearance had to be heard first. He told me, and I don't remember the exact words, but it basically was, "I will run my court how I feel like. It is my own fiefdom. Surf, get out of here."
Right.
I mean, even though there's rules and blase written, he wanted to hear nothing about what the actual rules of civil procedure are. And once again, I would like to state the recording. We've asked many times, but no judge has been able to tell us, "Judge, is that a rule against recording or a law?"
There is no
Right.
law.
We haven't been able to find the law. The judges haven't been able to tell us. They've just said, "Well, it's a law. Go find it." And then they disappear. But they pull their cape over their face and disappear behind their organ in the back, while laughing maniacally.
Well, that's when we say that, judges believe that they're God of their courtroom. Actually, I believe some, before they took down recordings of it, they have actually said, "I am the God of this courtroom. While we're in here, I am God." And they run that courtroom as such. Unfortunately, a lot of judges do that. So if they decide to follow the rules, they do. And if they decide they don't want to, they don't. And yet another reason, and where I was going earlier with, we have the civil, we have the criminal, and then we have these courts of inequity. And even more reason for family court specifically to have cameras in the courtroom to record, because again, we have civil procedures. There is a document, actually I'll pull it up here in a second, but there are rules they're supposed to go by, but they oftentimes they will just disregard that and do whatever they want to do. They can hold you in contempt for a reason or no reason at all. They can, again, do whatever they want to do. So again, just yet another reason to have cameras in the courtroom, because I've personally witnessed when we did have ability to view these proceedings on YouTube. And that number would start going up, you could visibly see the judge's expression, the tone, the way he or she handled him or herself changed dramatically because they were being watched. I mean, people, that's why we have security cameras around the house. That's why you lock your door. That's why we have all these things in place, because when people know they're being watched, they act differently, they act more appropriate, hopefully. I mean, we've unfortunately had some flagrant on camera episodes. Mr. Moye was a stunning example of someone that forgot he was on camera and shouldn't have acted the way he did.
Potty mouth Kate Stone.
Oh yeah, one can't let that one go. Yeah, Kate Stone. Yeah, that was a.
And you know what the thing with Kate Stone? That was not actually a recording. I actually downloaded that. She left it on her website. She forgot about it. Well, you shouldn't record her. I'm sorry, she left it up. It was available for download, and she left it up for quite some time. So, thank you, Kate. And look, and I, like I've said with other people, you're entitled perhaps to screw up. Kate Stone, I would love to have Kate Stone. Maybe Kate Stone would say, "Look, Jeff, I really screwed up. Can I talk with you further?" I'll be glad to put these people on. But right now, they like you said, they are acting as if they are king of their own fiefdom. And they're supposed to be executing justice on behalf of the people of Texas.
Right.
And they're not doing that. They are executing injustice. And, and that's why we should be able to say, wait a minute, public opinion is an effective bulwark against judicial abuse and injustice. And what Karen was talking about on Thursday, I believe that was one of those situations that we should have been able to have the entire hearing broadcast. It was a monstrosity to some degree. It was, we went in there and I thought this was supposed to be a criminal court, because our friends' attorneys were acting as if it were a criminal court, and they know what the rules of the criminal court are and everything. But then you had Marshall Thompson, the opposing counsel. He does family law only 100% of the time, and I mean he always tries to bully his way around in the family court and stuff like that. And I'm like, so he's trying. In fact, the judge smacked him down a few times. As Taran, I think, said, level set him a few times, because he's trying to do things like as if he's in a family court, and family courts, you can just throw anything out there and see what sticks on the wall. Right. So I don't want to be too harsh against the judges or the attorneys that our friend had, because they were operating in the realm that they knew, but they did not understand the realm of anti-family law and what goes on there.
Yeah, they were playing a different game. Like they did a good job. They had their objections in there, stuff like that, but they were playing checkers. Well, they were playing, family court chess. I want to, kind of note for the record, right, that these cameras can help present or disprove what is going on in these courtrooms. Marshmallow Thompson, I feel, was incredibly rude to me. He spoke very loudly towards me, like he was shouting. I could see him raising up on his table. You could see his hackles were getting up. Why? Because he's an impotent little man who cannot stand the fact that things were not going his way and that he cannot control us, and he wants to bully people. Unfortunately for him, some of us have got bigger cojones than him and are willing to fight back and disagree with him when he is a very disrespectful and unprofessional man.
So this was opposing counsel on the protective order against your friend. So you were called by your friend's counsel to serve as a character witness?
A character witness and a material witness, because there was an incident where they had to come over to my place. But the Marshall Thompson tried to yell at me. He spoke very harshly to me. I was presented with an affidavit that I had signed and submitted. And I wanted to verify that it was in fact the affidavit that I had written. Now I couldn't bring up my computer and be like, yes, word for word, but I just wanted to read it and see if, it would be something that I would read. And he tried to interrupt me while I was doing it because I wasn't reading fast enough for him. Mr. Champagne, are you done yet? And it was spoken in a much louder, much harsher tone of voice. So I simply told the man to be patient.
Okay.
Man, you could see he was not happy with that.
Nor was the judge.
Nor was the judge. Why? Why am I not allowed to fight back when somebody is being rude and disrespectful to me? Am I just supposed to stay there, like Jeff said, and be tied up to the pillar and burned at the stake? No, I'm straight up not going to do that.
You have a 1-page, 2-page affidavit. It took you like longer than 10 seconds, or did it feel like it was an amount of time, or?
Took me a couple minutes. It was about a 1-page affidavit, but I really wanted to make certain that this was what I wrote.
Right.
Because guess what? It could be perjury. The document could have been altered. I don't know.
Not the first time that's happened.
Yeah, documents have been altered, and I wouldn't put it past him. I have no evidence that he's done it, but based on his conduct, his demeanor, his, what he's done, the fact that he's willing to lie on the stand while interrogating me, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do that.
They were trying to accuse Taran of stalking by proxy, or our friend of stalking by proxy with Taran. And they tried to accuse me of something similar, but is that not correct, Taran? They were trying to basically.
I don't remember them accusing me of stalking by proxy, but they did say I have a YouTube channel. Bad news, folks. I'm only available on right here on being interviewed on Pissed Off Parent, or on Jeff Morgan's YouTube channel, or you can come meet me down at the Capitol at the end of the session when they bring up the equal parenting bill, because that's when they're going to bring it up. But
okay, so you were there acting as a kind of a character witness and a material witness to an event that may or may not have happened, and that the opposing counsel was saying that you had a YouTube channel.
Yes.
How did that tie into? Was it credibility, or I'm trying to figure out, because
they're trying to say that it's harassment by proxy, but because individuals such as yourselves will post videos about things, they'll conduct interviews, stuff like that. It's considered harassment by proxy. I will say this, that at the time the judge did level set Marshmallow Thompson. By telling him that we are protected by free speech to speak about this kind of thing.
Right.
Now,
thankfully, it was in civil court or criminal court, not family court, because family court people have been told they can't do that.
Well, I'm out of family court, so I'm going to speak my mind about whatever I want.
Right.
But either way, these are straight up lies. Now, will the judge do anything about that? No. I was also accused of being part of a fringe fathers' rights movement.
Fringe fathers' rights movement. Okay.
Now, I've only heard of the fathers' rights movement as established by Thomas Fiddler, which I'm not part of, never have been a part of. I fight for equal parenting.
So how is your part? Okay, I mean, just going with what you said, you're part of a fringe fathers' rights group. How does that tie into?
Hey, it's our favorite court watcher, Bo. Bo better not be recording.
Get him, Bo. Get him.
We should get a camera for Bo there to do his thing. So, how did you being a member of the fringe fathers' rights group tie into your testimony? Was it to discredit your testimony, or was it
character assassination?
Okay. To say because you're affiliated with, or accused, allegedly you're affiliated with a fringe fathers' rights group, then you're. I guess I'm just failing to see how that. What case was he trying to make? I guess for the judge to say to character assassinate you.
It's a deliberately inflammatory thing to make it seem like I'm some evil person, because I'm part of this fringe fathers' rights movement.
And he used the word fringe.
Fringe.
In other words, he's out there. It's a fringe group. Like maybe he's
like they're all on my leather jacket, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not. And any little bit of digging can find it. You can find plenty of my hearings online.
Yeah. Well, and even if you were, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Would that I mean, was the judge buying it or?
The judge actually didn't look at, and I can answer this, Taran, because there may or there may not be an audio recording of the whole thing that I may or may not have listened to, but the judge actually was very much said, he has that right. If he is,
Oh,
he's got that right.
sort
We
of.
have
Okay.
that right. And I mean, now this is Marshall Thompson, of course, does not think that we have these rights. And I want to know why Marshall Thompson is so anti-father. I mean, he's, father's rights. So you're telling me that everybody who's a parent, that all is he a mother's rights advocate only? Is that what he is? I mean, both parents have rights, children have rights, a lot of people have rights. But to
Right.
try to stigmatize Taryn, it's like he's a fringe, he's a nutcase. Fringe equals nutcase, you know. And this is the type of guy that our friend is calling as a witness, seriously. But the judge, again, a couple of times said to him, look, he has that right to do that in our I don't remember what word it was that he used, but he said the same thing about me. So I'm like, you know what? He did do that right, and I want to give that judge credit for that. He was not terrible in everything. There were a couple of things I have some questions about it. I wasn't in there for Taryn's hearing, but yeah.
Now, did after the judge sound like he scolded Marshmallow is his nickname?
Marshmallow Thompson, yeah.
Marshmallow. Now, is he the small marshmallows, the baby ones, or is he the Stay Puft kind?
Well, he may have been a thin marshmallow before, but he looks a little disheveled now, a little
Yeah.
worse for wear.
He's certainly not an SF type of guy. He's really like soft, Marshall.
Okay.
I was going to call him something else, but then I thought, you know what, it's more like a marshmallow because, he just, he just doesn't have. He doesn't look like a good man.
Well,
So
and his conduct really, as Jeff mentioned, we were both non-commissioned officers in the United States Army, and the first thing it starts off with is no one is more professional than I. I'm going to tell you this: that kind of behavior and the way he spoke to us, you'd catch yourself an HR complaint immediately in the regular civilian world. I don't speak to people like that.
no.
You don't.
So after he got scolded, by the judge, did he back off of the
No,
fringe? No. Okay, just
no,
ignored
he
it.
still kept trying to, prove that I was this, horrible human being, blase, blase, trying to insinuate, I'm not certain what he was getting at by noting that he said I had an SPO, which is false. I've never had an SPO. I had the expanded standard possession order beforehand. Now I'm equal, but that's
And
a story for another.
and
other
you remove and just like our friend, you remove your case to federal court. Is that correct, Mr.
No,
Champagne? Yeah, he just made stuff up. It was a fishing expedition at the same time.
Fishing.
yeah, I never removed my case to federal court. Um,
So,
so
so just going with what he's saying, that you had an SBO, so he's making it sound like people that have SBOs are less people, just bad people. Is that
apparently, I
where
mean,
this going?
these seem like similar tactics that the Bresnans use, which
Yeah.
I think they'll be.
Well, SPOs, that's equal shared parenting, according to the Bresnans. I mean, to kind of pull them in.
2 minutes a day equals 1 day.
Yeah, exactly. But so he
But
was so he was basically saying that people that have SBOs or don't have equal shared parenting, they're less trustworthy, less
well,
they're
he didn't get there because
okay.
our friend's attorneys objected to the relevance of
Oh,
all
good.
that, which was
Yeah.
sustained. But this deliberate attempted character assassination is to do what? To prejudice the judge against any testimony that we may have. You know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm a good person. I serve my country honorably in the United States Army. I'm an Eagle Scout. I volunteer regularly in the community. Like, I'm not a bad person. I know because I was on an SPO, you may think so. You'd be wrong because the majority of people receive SPO or ESPO because it's deemed in that asinine best interest of the child term. But you know what? Most people are good people. Mom, dad, they separate, they still love their kid. Maybe the parents don't get along, but they love their kid. I may think many of them are stupid, but you can't put someone in jail for being stupid, right? You can't violate their rights because they're stupid or disagreeable.
So
It's
okay, so after he tried that, like what was his next?
it pretty much got cut off. Pretty much after that, he got all huffy and pissy because he couldn't get what he wanted. Once again, super unprofessional. If we had some cameras in the courtroom, we could show his body language. He was all tight and upset and angry. You know what? That's not acceptable. You would think that from an attorney with, probably, 20, 25 years of experience in the courts, you'd be able to have a better poker face.
Yeah, and I mean, so it sounded like he was fishing. It sounded like he didn't have anything to go with. He was just trying to throw as much mud up against the wall. It sounded like, I mean, if cameras were in the courtroom and recording that, and that was played for, say, his boss or for the ethics commission.
If it ended up on a Google review, people should be able to know how their attorneys are acting and should have examples. You got Yelp reviews. You can see that. You can, oh, this is some bad food. Let me take a picture.
Right.
You should be able to have those recorded and posted. Is this a person I want to hire? Is this person who acts childish in the courtroom the person I want to hire? And if you're watching this, Marshmallow, that's what you acted like. You acted like a child. You need a timeout. You need to calm down and take a couple deep breaths.
Actually, I saw to say that he acted like a child is very nice because everybody who came back, there was somebody that came back before Taran and who went in with one disposition, came back, and her whole body had changed. Everything about her demeanor had changed and everything. And the words that were used about him were not appropriate, not family friendly, not appropriate. So to say he acted like a child, or even to say that he acted like a scumbag, are nice terms. That's all I can say about that.
So then, when he was, finished with that, did he just say, I'm done with this witness, or?
Yeah, he passed me off.
Okay.
But fortunately for me, right, I've been yelled at because I was in the Army.
Yeah.
You can yell at me all day long, and I'm just gonna be like this, and but that's not acceptable.
Yeah,
Don't treat people like that.
Yeah, people need to be professional in the courtroom. I mean, they're supposedly professional, higher standard.
I've heard there's a disciplinary rules of professional conduct, and I'm pretty certain lying to the judge violates, what is it, Candor, I believe, and that's not a Star Wars planet. That's Endor.
Right.
There's Candor.
Pull up actually on the Pissed Off comment page. They have an entire thing dedicated to it. There's Judge Judy. I love that quote. But
Judge Judy is not behaving badly, by the way.
No.
She's great.
Oh, I love Judge Judy. Her books that she's written and the stuff that she's done and the way she talks about family court judges is some of the best video you'll ever find. But on here, aside from all this other fun stuff, you can actually file. There's a link there to file a judicial complaint. So anyone that has went through that's a place you can go to file that. It talks about the. I'm trying to remember you said Candor. I haven't looked at that document in a while, but that link will go there. I believe it's for Texas.
I don't think it works anymore. I think you have to actually mail things in now. They made it harder, not easier, for us to file complaints. Okay. I believe so.
Yes, they did, because they were receiving so many, and they weren't doing anything anyways. But here
we go. Yeah. You can download it, print it out, and then I guess mail it to them. I'm assuming. Yeah, mail it to our mailing address. Okay, they make it as hard as possible. Well, good to know.
This is something that as well. Look at. I work for a federal government agency. Mm-hmm. If we did this crap that these courts are getting away with, we would be under congressional review. They would have the head of our agency in there discussing why you are now doing this. But in Texas, this is okay. We want to make it difficult for people to file complaints against judges. Why? What is the SCJC in on the game with them? This is a problem. It's a huge, huge problem.
And I've watched a couple of their, I think, yearly or quarterly reviews, and the stuff they talk about. At times, they'll talk about and they acknowledge the challenges, and of course, nothing happens. And then other times, they don't even talk about it. Yeah, it's insane how they go about doing that. But on the side, there's actually the robing room is a good place to go. That the Yelp review, that's a site that if you go to it, in Fort Texas, you can kind of pick your area and find out where your judge sits, submit reviews, and there's a couple others out there that you can go to. And of course, I have.
So I do want to, because we're talking about attorneys and how they should behave, and the fact that he's a lying individual. There is the disciplinary rules of professional conduct, and Rule 4.01, it notes that there is truthfulness in statements to others. And it notes that in the course of representing a client, a lawyer shall not knowingly make a false statement of material fact or law to a third person. Now, assuming that he is, didn't do his research, and he did some research on me apparently,
Right.
in an attempt to character assassinate me. But let's say he just didn't read through because he's incompetent. That also violates the disciplinary rules of professional conduct, because attorneys are supposed to be competent. So what is he? Is he a liar or is he incompetent?
Right. Yeah, it's something. Let me see if I can pull up that document. We can take a look at it. Let's see. Oh, wait, that's the lawyer's creed. Let's pop that up there. Open it up here. So, does that have the language that Taran was mentioning, or is that a?
No, this is just what they're supposed to.
Oh.
Let's see. Let's take a look at this, though. This seems pretty interesting. Lawyer to lawyer, lawyer and judge.
My word is my bond.
Yeah.
Sorry, I broke character for a moment. My word is my bond. All right, Peter Pan. I don't know if you guys remember the Peter Pan when Robin Williams version. He'd always say his word is his bond and then not do it. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I mean, we'll see. There may be a bar complaint heading his way soon.
Oh, there is definitely.
I will not be treated in such a disgusting and disrespectful manner.
I will be lawyer to lawyer. I'll be courteous, civil, and prompt in oral and written communication. Oh wait, lawyer to client. Is there anything like lawyer and judge? Oh, there's no reference to lawyer to other people.
Yeah, because they don't care.
Right. Interesting.
Here's another link for you there.
All right.
I think that'll probably have it.
Oh, there we go. Disciplinary rules of professional conduct. Yeah, that's on this.
Yeah, if you go to 1.01, a lawyer shall not accept or continue employment in a legal matter which the lawyer knows or should know is beyond the lawyer's competence.
Yeah.
And I would say not doing your research very well, not very competent.
So they have all these rules and they don't abide by them, but then nothing happens to them. All right,
What's
so
really good about this document, Dwayne, is that not only do they give the rules, but they give comments. So this can help to guide us to understand what these rules are.
Okay.
So you look at Rule 1.01, competent, diligent representation, comment, accepting employment. But again, there's many rules that they are supposed to follow, and I am very glad that they put this document out there. This is very recent, as of January the 1st. Well, I guess it's over a year old. But I mean, we can look at this.
Things change.
We can use this, right? We can use this, and when we file our complaint against Marshmallow, I mean, I'm sure we'll be using some of this stuff. And by the way, Taran and I did both get to speak with the Texas Grievance Oversight Board was it August or September or October last year, Taran? Do you remember that?
Yes.
So they might remember us. I don't know, but we're going to definitely do this. And we should be doing this against attorneys, because like somebody like Marshall Marshmallow Thompson gives the rest of the attorneys, the 90% of the attorneys like him, a very bad name.
Well, and really, if they're going to police themselves, they need to clean
Yeah.
up the detritus like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Ones who don't know how to actually address people professionally.
And there are very good attorneys out there, so I don't mean maybe that was a bad job or whatever, but the attorneys should clean up the attorneys. And I mean, one of the things that I don't know who talked about it, but I mean, when you talk with an attorney, how many attorneys have you reported for professional misconduct? 0? Why? How many judges have you reported for judicial misconduct? 0? Why? Because part of what they're supposed to do, they're not supposed to be afraid to speak for justice. And even if it works against them, but we also know too that the reality is that if they make a complaint against a judge, as they should, as they are obligated to by their Texas lawyers creed, they also know that they may be put out of business or that they may lose every case in front of that judge. Another evidence of corruption.
Yeah. But that was kind of what I observed. Jeff, do you want to go through kind of your observations and everything like that?
Oh, I would love to. And I want to go back to something else here first, because what this whole thing that was being talked about had to do a lot with the custody situation. And as Taran was saying, I mean, he was never under an SPO. He had the expanded standard possession. But even with that, there were difficulties until he got equal shared parenting. And and I mean, Taran was an example for us all to follow, to see how to take on the system, because it's not just for himself, but it's to make sure that his son is not going to be impacted by this in the future. If we do not stand now, it's going to be worse for our children. We've already seen the stuff our legislators trying to do, by and large, this upcoming session. But I want to also say this is that, here's the way. Listen to this nonsense the attorneys use to create fees for themselves. So-and-so is the better parent. This parent is better than the other person. What I know is this. I have a commission as a bank examiner, a financial institution examiner. In order to get that commission, I had to pass a test. The test was pass-fail. We had different components. It was pass-fail. Well, I got a 99% and you got a 76%. Doesn't make a difference. It's pass-fail. I believe the same thing with the bar, and I think that's what we should look at parents. The parent is fit or unfit. If the parent is a fit parent, I don't care if one parent is better than the other. A fit parent, a good enough parent, is better than no parent. And that's the way we need to look at it. And unfortunately, we are letting the family law system, the anti-family law system, which is designed to profit the industry, put these terms and these conditions on us. And if you have a good enough parent, a child needs 2 good enough parents. And that's what they need. If you have an unfit parent or whatever, bring forth that case. But if you have 2 fit parents, I believe that, if you're going to allow no fault divorce is no fault. Hey, 50-50, split everything else 50-50. Same thing with possession and access. Until they get rid of no fault divorce, the only logical conclusion is the 50-50. But with regard to my own going in there, I was actually a little bit confused about what kind of a court it was. Because first off, I thought it was supposed to be a criminal court, but then it turned out I'm like, so Marshall Thompson, who says he only does 100% family law, it's on his website. I do 100% family law. So I don't quite understand why in a criminal court, here he is as a family law attorney, supposedly
my cousin Vinny or something.
Yeah, well, it's not even, no, my cousin Vinny was a lot better. But I mean, but so I'm looking at this, I'm like, what kind of a monstrosity is this? Because if it's a criminal court, there are certain rules. And again, our friends' attorneys played by those rules. But then you had this other guy, Marshmallow Thompson, who we are filing a complaint against, who's trying to muddy the waters. And the judge himself was formerly a family law attorney. You can take a look at it on his website. So the interesting thing was, Dwayne, is that when we went down, we all had to swear in at the beginning. And how many people are here to witness on behalf of our friend? I think there were between 8 or 10 people, just like, whoa, what are all these people down here? We're not hearing from all of them. So they had to already call I believe that was what was said. I don't have the audio, but I believe that that's what was said. Wait a minute. That right off the bat tells me that there is a bias against the father, because if you have this many people that are willing to drive 200 miles, I drove from Dallas down to Williamson
Right.
Williamson County. That's 180 miles. I did this on my own time. It took me several hours. I had to wait almost all day to be called as a witness. I did this on behalf of our friend. I had a lot that I wanted to say. Well, anyway, because we weren't allowed to, all these people weren't allowed to testify, so they had to call the witness list down. And then our friend's attorneys came to me and said, basically, we can use this, and this person. It's told me, Mr. Morgan, basically, you're dismissed. Well, I had this thing here because it's a trial subpoena. And it has the case number down here and everything. And it says, you, Jeffrey Stephen Morgan, blah, blah, are hereby commanded to appear at the county court at law number 4 of Williamson County, Texas, and gives a location. Well, I got served this by somebody that was there shortly before I was dismissed as a witness. So I went to the attorney and I said, I understand I can go right now, but what do I do with this? I was just subpoenaed. So, and the reality is, the subpoena was an improperly serviced subpoena.
It's like 3 days or something, right?
It was given on the spot, and I can show you right here. Look at this was done by maybe you can see it here, by Centex Mobile Notary Mary Holder. They paid me $10. Can you see this? I don't know if it's a little bit.
It's there. Yeah, back there. Yeah, I think your camera probably won't pull in. So you got a check for $10.
Got a check for $10,
spend it all in one place.
Which I am not cashing. Because I also did not accept the proof of service, and there was no server down here because it says I such and such am over the age of 18. I'm not party to the above, blah blah blah. There's no signature. This whole thing was improperly serviced. This was an on-the-spot subpoena. So when
this is what you pay over $500 an hour for, by the way. Just want to remind you guys.
I'm gonna wrap my head around this.
No, and I'm sending him a bill. My fee to testify is $500 an hour, except in a deposition it's going to be $1,250 because I also have another subpoena to appear for a deposition on April the 24th, 2023 via Zoom at 9 a.m. And by the way,
are we invited?
It will definitely be public because I'm going to let him know about, again, my fee, which is $1,250 an hour. I want to know the topics. I want to make sure that my attorney is going to be paid for. I want a link so many days in advance so that the public can watch because I want the public recording. I want the public to be there to protect me. Because if it is a Star Chamber deposition, just like a Star Chamber court, we know, yes, it is Zoom. I believe it's Zoom. I'll have to see. I don't have a link. Yeah, via Zoom, virtually via Zoom. But I want the public to be there and to watch the shenanigans of this corrupt, in my opinion, anti-family, lawless attorney, Marshmallow, the soft junkyard bulldog, Thompson. So I want everybody to see that, and I'm going to have my attorney there, and I want to make sure that I'm protected because this guy is a snake, and he will do anything that he can. I think he's going on a fishing expedition. I think he's really pissed off because I put some videos about him on my YouTube channel, and I think he's really butthurt, to be quite honest. And he's like, "How can I get this guy and take him down?" So you know what?
He would be so nasty as he was towards us if people were watching. Once again, to our big topic of cameras in the courtroom.
No,
if your deposition is public, do you think he's going to be Mr. Morgan, blah, 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 blah,
Well, I guess all we have to do is wait and see, don't we? But first off, I have been improperly served. I am not accepting this $10 check. So this is the consideration or whatever. I'm writing back. I'm giving my terms and conditions. These are my terms and conditions. I want to deposit beforehand, $1,250 an hour with a 3-hour minimum.
Cashier's check, baby.
Cashier's check, and I want it at least 5 days in advance. Other than that, I will, because my attorney, of course, would have to be able to know the case, to help me and to be there and to advise me as to how to answer the questions and stuff like that. But This is the crap that he did. This is the crap that he did. Thank you, Ricardo. I definitely will. If this goes forward, everybody will know about this Zoom link. I want the entire public. I hope there's 1,000 people watching this crooked attorney. Anyway, so when I went in there, And Dwayne, I went in and I had already sworn in. I sat down, and my friend did not know that I was not his witness. He was under the impression that I was his witness because the attorneys had not communicated to him, hey, we've dismissed him. I'm in there because of subpoena, an improperly served subpoena by Marshmallow Thompson. So I get in there, and he starts to question me. And I'd mentioned the fact, yes, I knew the YouTube channel was coming up. And I had said, for 8 years, I've been doing this because I wanted to expose the anti-family court injustice, anti-family attorneys, what's the corruption in our courtroom, whatever. And I have over 8 years, over 2,100 videos. This is what I do. And I can claim as well, I am media. I am a journalist. I'm an investigative journalist. I've worked for organizations, for several organizations. I am doing this. This is my right to do so. And so he tried to take a specific video and basically try to say that I was thank you. So, yeah, there we go.
We'll advertise in there.
Hey, I appreciate it. If you're watching,
put the link in there.
Yeah, like and subscribe, as Dwayne would say. Go ahead and say it how you say it. Like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. I mean, it helps out. It
smash the like button.
Out. Smash the like button. Yeah,
and the follow. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, where's my? Yeah, figure out where my buttons are. Actually, I may have a caption or something for that somewhere.
But anyway, Dwayne, let me continue on with what happened the other day, because he swears me in, and I said this, and I'm watching, and my friend is kind of like, I think they're like, why is he doing this? He's our witness. This is what he's thinking. I'm his witness. Now, Taran clarified that later on to him. He did not know this. So Marshmallow comes attacking me, the junkyard bulldog, and he starts to throw all of these things at me. And he wanted to know how I got certain videos. Did I videotape them? I believe we have a right to videotape videos that are being broadcast over the internet on YouTube by our courts. I believe that. And I said, I videotape some. There are many of us who videotape this. And so
and Jeff Morgan ain't in jail, by the way.
Yeah.
If it's illegal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing is that, he said, are you audio taping, or are you taping this right now? And I had already sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I said, yes, I am. I had an audio recorder in my pocket. And that's when the judge lost it. I was threatened with contempt of court. But prior to going in, I checked the courtroom. There are rules of conduct. I went to one court. They said that you cannot take any you can't take any cameras in. There's no videotaping. There's no telephone. I did not take an electronic communication device. I did not take a camera. I did none of that stuff. But I looked, and nowhere did it say no audio recording. So looking at what I said on the rules, all the rules said, hey, it's okay to do this. And as Taran said earlier, I take this upon me to protect myself. Texas is a one-party recording state. If I know I can record anywhere I am, especially in our government buildings, why is it I carry stuff with me to be able to record, to protect myself? But in the courtroom, when I have this junkyard dog, Marshmallow, acting in the way that he did, I cannot protect myself. And the judge got very upset, and there's only one official recorder here. And I just said, okay, fine, I can turn it off. But I did also mention, too, that it is a constitutional right. But in the Texas Constitution, the open courts we have the open courts doctrine, we have the Texas Constitution behind us. But this judge was upset, and he's like, basically threatened me with contempt of court. And as Taran said, when we walked inside of this building, there were armed police officers, armed security, and they had vests on. They were weaponized. There we go. Yeah, take a look at it. That's it. Those are the rules of the court. I read them.
Whoa. They said no children are allowed in the courtroom. You said Marshmallow was in there.
Well, yeah, that's true. He's an adult child, though. I think there's an exception.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just immediately saw rule number 1, no children are allowed in there. And it sounds like he was being kind of a child.
Well, there's okay. Like I said, child is the very nicest term that we've heard him described as so far.
Now, was your shirt tucked into your pants?
My shirt was tucked in. I was not wearing a cap. I had no communication devices with me, and
no
I had
pagers?
no video camera. No pictures.
Pagers? No
No,
pages.
no pagers, no
Okay,
pagers.
making sure
Um,
those
I didn't
pages
have
or
anything
something.
on the court that said Marshall Thompson is a scuzz or something like that. Nothing like that. Very
Okay.
respectfully dressed. Taran and I did an interview afterwards. You can take a look at it. It's on my channel. You'll see that we're both respectfully dressed.
Right.
And so those are the rules of the court. And the judge gave no admonition beforehand that said, "Hey, no, no audio recording." He said nothing like that. So I'm under the assumption I can go in. I've read the rules of the court. I probably read them a dozen times, and there is case law on our behalf as well. Yeah, Mark, I don't know if the officers have. They probably had body cams on them.
I did.
But the thing is that I'm in there, and I said this. I am under obligation to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I could have lied. I didn't lie. I said, yes, I am. And I know my friend and his attorneys were just shocked that I was doing that. But Dwayne, we know we have to be protected. When you feel like going into a court like this puts you in as much danger as you might be in if you walk down the streets at midnight unarmed in a neighborhood that you're not familiar with. That's the way these courts are. And a judge has a police officer and everything else at his disposal, just like that. They could have thrown me in jail. For what? I did nothing that was wrong.
Right.
Now, the next day, he told people no audio recording, but to us, he said nothing about that. So anyway, when I said that, I mean, that really caused a lot of
Pucker factor.
Yeah.
The pucker factor.
Yeah, it was the pucker factor. But then what Marshmallow tried to do to me, because I have interviewed various people, and he tried to say that I was acting as a proxy for harassment. Because I told him, I said, I have a YouTube channel up, as you know. Well, do you think so-and-so would know as well? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know anything about her. Then how come you said I would know? Well, because I've put his name up there, his face, his picture. I've criticized Marshmallow, or I didn't call him Marshmallow at the time, but now I do. I criticized Marshall Thompson specifically for price fixing and for other things, because he is a price fixer. Everybody knows that that's price fixing, what he engages in. And in my opinion, he is a lying scumbag, scuzzy attorney. So I was putting him up there to expose him. So anyway, but then he was trying to say that, that my videos were harassing his client. The client's name was never mentioned. The child as well, the name was never mentioned. In fact, I respected the person for not mentioning the name, because I might be very willing to give forth the name, but the individual that I was interviewing said nothing about the names. And the judge basically finally said, and again, I give credit to the judge, because at one point in time, our friend's attorneys objected on the basis of hearsay and third-party communication outside of the courtroom or something like that. And the judge upheld it. And Marshmallow kept on. He was thinking he was in a family court. Well, if I try this again, if I wear down the judge, maybe the judge will let me get away with this. And finally, the judge said, listen, he has a right to post his views on his channel.
Right. First Amendment, have you heard of it?
Yeah, but Marshmallow did get to give 30 seconds of something. Now, what happened is the judge basically discounted, there's nothing here, right? So that's why our friend's attorneys had not questioned further. Now, I was hoping, honestly, that our friend's attorney were going to cross-examine me, because I would have given a lot of good context to show what a good man this was that was talking about these issues and why I was doing it, how reserved he was, how I witnessed him with his son, how there was nothing but love, how when I was at his house, I saw all these pictures and they're enjoying themselves.
Right.
And this, there's a few times that you feel like you want to swear when you talk about these attorneys and stuff like that. I'm not going to do so. But that's about the only time that you really want to swear, is when you talk about some of these things.
Yeah.
But this scuzzbag attorney tried to pretend that he was a danger to his son. He was not. And, but he was milking the system, because the system allows him to do so. The system allows him to create false reports, character assassination, slanderous reports, and charge people money for this. This scuzzbag attorney needs to be cleaned out. And that's exactly why I know I'm filing a complaint against him. I believe that Taran is. I believe others as well. If they expect us to trust this industry, to trust the judiciary, they've got to clean up the crap. This is a swamp, and they've got to start to drain the
And they
swamp
need to
and
be
clean up.
recorded.
They need to be recorded. Absolutely, 100%. And like I said, so now I have these subpoenas that I was not properly served. So I go in there as his witness, and like Taran said, he was unprofessional. He was trying to intimidate me, and
Right.
trying to act like he was this tough guy. And the same thing. Look, I've been yelled at, and I understand that people that have not been up there before, they might fear. But it also seemed too, when the judge starts to yell at you like contempt of court, your mind starts to go, what am I going to do in this? I told the truth and stuff like that. But Dwayne, something else we don't talk about, when you are under the spotlight like this,
Mhm.
I mean, it can be very traumatic, and you might think that you're saying something, and you might communicate things indirectly. And I
Right.
almost believe at this point that if you go and you're a witness, you should be asking for ADA accommodations 100% of the time because of the stress that you'll endure. And I believe that the ADA accommodations will also allow that person to record for you and give you additional protections. And I believe that this is a federal law that the judges have to do. So we have weapons at our disposal. If our legislature refuses to act as they have thus far, and if these courts continue to bully us, I believe that we should be asking for ADA accommodations all the time, because we can be stressed. And when we're stressed, we may not recollect things correctly. We may speak things falsely. We want to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's my opinion.
And really, to Mark's point about California procedures, regarding that, I don't care what the rules say. I will record to protect myself.
Right. I mean, and
You know what? Because there is nothing that can be done because there are no cameras in the courtrooms.
And you are presumed
there are,
guilty
but they won't
instead of
use them.
innocent. Yeah.
Right.
Except if you do something.
I mean, yeah, they're.
It's like we have a
And even if you ask, oh, can I record this hearing? They'll be like, yeah, go pound sand. Unless you're Alex Jones, which how come Alex Jones gets cameras in his courtroom? Johnny Depp got cameras in his courtroom.
right.
How come we, the common clay, I've heard that the peasants are revolting. That's how they view you. You are a peasant. You are a disgusting piece of filth, and you are beneath protecting yourself.
Well, just think what would have happened had, speaking of Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard trial, I mean, it was great that they did that, but what would have happened had they not done that and it turned out the way it did? Because, again, the narrative was that Amber Heard was the wounded kitten, Johnny Depp was this horrible beast of a man, and then it turned out, it went the way it went, and then Johnny Depp walked out. Everyone would have said, oh my gosh, it was fixed, or Johnny Depp paid him off, or whatever. Seeing it puts faith back in the judiciary.
Absolutely.
It seems like common
Once
sense.
again, to Jeff's point, the public is a bulwark for trust in the judiciary. And I have no trust in it.
Yeah.
Why do you think somebody would want to record when they're in there? Because there is nothing that will protect you.
Right.
Yeah.
Your only protection is as if you record.
Taran, you served in the U.S. military too to defend this country, didn't you? You have faith in the country. Except
I swore to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and these courts are our enemies. They are domestic terrorists.
they are. I agree with you.
They destroy families. They cause untold harm.
They kidnap kids.
They kidnap children. They enrich corrupted attorneys and cause nothing but strife. They are our enemies.
And Taran,
flat out.
I'll say this too, because there was about 10 years or so ago, I was picked up by a police officer. I did nothing wrong, but he did not. I was in a turning lane. I was going to turn, and I wanted to go straight. And I'm like, okay, great. I can't do this. Police officer's here. I made the turn, went down a block, turned around, and then went back the way I was going to go. That was suspicious behavior. The police officer followed me at a different. I mean, it was crazy what this guy did. and he followed me right beside me on the right hand side. He caught up with me like 2 miles later and stuff like that. And the first question was, my window was broken, so I cracked the door, and basically it was a threat. And I'm trying to say, wait a minute, I can't talk to you because my window's broken, right? And then I get out of the car, and he searches me, and he asks me if I have a hand grenade on me. And all I
You're
could
like,
say was,
well,
I
thank you.
know, I know. And he's feeling me out in a sense. He's feeling out the button on my jeans. But here's what I said. I said, if you do this to my kids, how are they going to respond? And are you going to shoot them? Because we know some police officers have done that. So I went to the police. I went the next day. I was furious. I went up there the next day. Well, he's this, he's that, and everything else. I don't care. We don't live in East Germany. And the same fear that I would have of my children being picked up by a police officer and possibly being shot and killed, and then being told, oh, we had to shoot him because he was a danger. The crap that they do, it's just as bad, if not worse, in these courts, in these family courts. So yes, absolutely, we should have cameras every single time. In fact, I think that we should be equipped with cameras when we go in, so that we can have our own cameras to take with us. Have cameras, more cameras, not fewer.
Makes sense. At the very least, I mean, we have the existing technology. We already have the infrastructure in place. We should utilize that and restore the confidence in the judiciary, because as been pointed out a few times.
No, I say we expose it so we can completely rebuild a new judiciary.
That is
take them all out, and we be like, hey, okay, thanks, bye, y'all, go away.
So, Taran, I want to have this whole thing. We've talked about this, Dwayne, and it's something that we need to really implement. We need to have a citizens commission on judicial conduct. We need to have a citizens investigatory body, because these professionals, I'm sorry, they are doing this. They're getting paid. They say they don't have enough money. We do this stuff for free. It has cost us money. It has cost us time. But why? Because we want to make sure that this evil system is not around for our kids. We have survived it. And we now have an obligation to protect the upcoming generation. If we fail, there will be nothing to help them out. So I think that, we ought to be looking at some of these things, like having our own citizen commission on judicial conduct. And you know what? Let the state do whatever they want to. Oh, they don't have enough money. They don't have this. We will do it. And we
will do a better job.
We will do a better job and a much faster job. Now, nobody's going to pay attention to the punishments that we will impose. But I mean, we can do this stuff. And I think that we should. And I think we should be armed to go in there. Dwayne,
armed. When we say armed, we mean
with cameras. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Not armed like that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for not, because next thing I'm going to be a violent person. I'm a revolutionary.
He's a fringe guy, and you're
I know, but the reality is over the.
Hey, if I'm fringe, what is he like? Does he like? I
don't know.
What's your fashion of choice?
Yeah,
Godfather. Anyway, I mean, but the reality
more bell bottoms, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. I've got a picture somewhere, I'm sure, Dwayne. I don't think I'm going to give it to you, though, because you might.
Oh, no, please.
Nah, you put that behind a paywall. You put that behind a paywall.
There you go.
Jeff.
Like when I had an afro or when I had a ponytail.
There you go.
I can show you some pictures. Anyway, but the deal is this: is that we have to be in the forefront of this right now. We have to be out there exposing the corruption behind this industry, and the cameras are, as Taran said, they are for our protection. And we are the last line of defense, because look at what's happening. Look at right now in our legislature, there are some good bills out there, but there is so much garbage being thrown at us. I don't even know how you stop it. It's like, I mean, if you're being hit by 50, different things of garbage coming at you, something's going to come through and hit you. And we have these people that will go in front of our legislators who have no experience in this.
Right.
And they're going to be educated by lobbyists who have a direct financial interest in perpetuating this. Where on the other hand, I think that I can safely say that since COVID began, I've been over 200 hearings, between at least 150, I would say maybe even 200, whether it's in person, virtual, whatever.
Right.
And, so I think that personally, I could take the entire civil jurisprudence committee or whatever it is. I could say I have more experience than all of you 10 or 9 or however many of you are combined as an observer. maybe not as a participant that are going to profit off of the system. But I think between myself, between Taran, I mean, we get 10 people, we have 20 times the experience of all of these other people, and yet they're going to tell us what it's like. They have no experience. They don't know.
Well, they don't care. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't George Saldana, wasn't he at a hearing a few years ago? I could picture it in my head. It was like a side shot, and he was talking to, I thought it was some committee on judicial ethics or conduct. I don't know if I'm imagining that whole thing, but he was there. I think actually Mr. Dolcifino was there.
Yeah, that happened
Okay.
last fall.
Okay.
Last fall.
And they gave good examples of violations and wrongdoing and the need to I think they even talked about cameras in the courtroom. And that body just sat there and yeah, and then just went on their merry way. If I remember correctly, I don't know if you guys remember that that hearing, but it seems like they don't care. It just doesn't.
Well, we need to make them care.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring it up because actually I have let me pop it up here. An organization that's starting here, holding judges accountable. I know that it's been recently introduced, and they're gaining headway. And the young lady here, boy, actually it was Jennifer Lundy, over at the was it? Boy, I run their website. I should probably know this. Let me see if I can find the QR code. This is what happens when you get old. There we go. Texas. Popped it up there. Texas for Judiciary Accountability, and I believe that's one of the pieces there is getting cameras in the courtroom, finding ways to hold these judges accountable, so they don't do bad things, and restores the confidence. I think that was actually one of the cornerstones of the website, or one of their goals was to restore judicial
Trust in the judiciary.
There we go. There's the big word. Yeah, the trust in the judiciary.
Well, we need to get rid of the immunity. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, flat out. These judges are immune. And to points, what do we do? Do we address the legislature? Do we start a petition? My thoughts is expose them. These people in our legislature, in our judiciary, they do not react to petitions or whatever.
Yeah.
They react to public pressure.
Public shame.
Yeah.
Shame. And you know what? Record your hearings. Put them online.
And I'll say this as well. There was a judge that I was very upset about, right? And but then she did something, and I said, okay, as long as she's now reversed herself, you know what? We'll give her that.
That's the accountability part.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that we had anything to do with it or not, but like we said earlier, I remember watching this one hearing on YouTube that as the number of watchers grew, and the judge even commented about it, he thought maybe he should recuse himself from the case, and he did.
Interesting, right?
And I mean, I will tell you that on some of these things, I think that every judge in the state should be recused because they made some decisions without having based strictly on hypotheticals, that without any facts and evidence before them. Stump v. Sparkman. That is absolutely. I agree with you, Mark. So yeah, that's.
I mean, we need to recuse all humans. It's happened before. Brandon Johnson. He wrote a document that recused all humans except for the Honorable Judge Roy Ferguson. I believe truly all humans should be recused in these cases. The judges know nothing. The lawyers certainly know. I don't know if they know nothing or at this point they actively are out to harm people. But
look, this is their profit-making machine. This is a money-making machine. Look, even the child custody evaluators, Dr. Alyssa Sherry, for example, I mean, she can brag about how rich she's gotten off of these child custody evaluations. She is a joke of a child custody evaluator. Dr. Brooks McKenzie, I believe, is willing to look at any child custody evaluations that she has done and give them his professional review. I think it's at a discounted rate. I'm sure it's going to be a discounted rate, but because he knows how bad she is. And this whole system, it's not just the attorneys, it's not just the judges and stuff like that, but there is a whole industry built up around family court injustice. guardian ad litems, amicus attorneys, child custody evaluators, child custody supervisor, all of this crazy crap that we have to pay for, yet these parents have passed. They have, while he's 99, she's 76, or vice versa. It doesn't make a difference. They're both good enough parents. And then we have a system that actively rewards perjury. Look, at when you claim no fault divorce and then you try to blame the other person for something, the act of claiming no fault divorce is perjury. You've just said it's no fault, but now you're going to try to blame fault? That's ridiculous. That's my opinion. Anyway, but yeah, but I mean, so we have a whole industry that's set up around perjury, around exploiting families, around taking your resources. You know, Taran, I know that you're like a multimillionaire, right? None of us here are multimillionaires, but if we were, and if they said, man, we can drag this thing out for 3 years because over this 3 years, they're multimillionaires. That means that, you know, if they're $10 million, we can probably get $4 million or more out of them, you know?
Yeah, that was a huge saving grace for me. But I mean, kind of tying this whole thing together, you need those cameras. You need to expose what's going on. Because honestly, your family, not even your family, can wrap their minds around what's going on.
Right.
Having these cameras allows, you know, grandma and grandpa to watch the hearing because they're concerned. It allows guys like us to watch the hearing. It allows the public to know what they can expect and what they can see from these judges and vote them out if they're corrupt.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Or impeach them.
As far as, you know, kind of the call to action, you know, my idea, again, is the getting in touch with the Texas for Judicial Accountability and working with them. Again, they're spearheading, you know, moving this through the process and setting up way, again, to hold these judges accountable. And it seems like largely judges are the ones that, you know, say yes, have cameras, or no, don't. It's, you know, they're able to say that either way. I would say, you know, short of getting a bill filed that would allow that, this would probably be another step or another, you know, avenue. What are your thoughts on, you know, having people reach out and, you know, fill out the contact us form and say, hey, what can we do in order to get this, you know, moving forward? Or what ideas do you have? I mean, what are ways?
I mean, I mean, record, publish online.
Right.
You also need to know what you're going to be looking at while you're going in there. So reading the disciplinary rules of professional conduct, reading the judicial canons. Prepare yourself, whether you have an attorney, whether you don't. And once again, we're not offering legal advice, but what I would suggest is go read and understand how they're supposed to act. You also need to read the open courts doctrine. Article 1, Section 13 of the Texas Constitution states all courts shall be
open.
Yes, thank you. Open.
Right. It's just getting the people involved and, you know, putting enough pressure on the right people to make some change, either at the legislative level or at the judiciary to do that.
Societal level.
Yeah. I would add one thing to all of this, perhaps. I mean, I think that we should be talking with our legislators. We should be asking them. We should be, every single time we see them, we should be talking about the family courts. I mean, I go into a room right now and they're like, dear God, it's him again, right? You know, but we have to talk about this, because even when we talk about this in a public sense, we are informing the people around us. And Brooks McKenzie's been going around right now, and people are becoming a little bit aware, more and more aware, because of the stuff that he's doing. But we have this issue right now. For example, the governor is coming to Denton on Monday. He's talking about parental rights in education. I believe he's been a little bit responsible for parental rights being abrogated in the state of Texas. Because if you have two parents, all have passed, I don't care if one's a 95 and one's an 82. That's not the issue. Are they good enough parents? Children have a right to good enough parents. They should be brought up in an intact home with both parents together, but if not, they still have a right to good enough parents. Not a mommy and a stepdaddy, not a daddy and a stepmommy. They may have the bonus parents, whatever, but a mommy is a mommy, a daddy is a daddy. And if they're good enough, they should have unfettered access, and parents should have the right to have access to to records and everything else, medical decisions. Right now, our anti-family courts are destroying that. So this whole thing about we're talking about parental rights and education. Well, you know what? What if only one parent has the right to see records or something like that? I think the whole thing is garbage. We need to get to the fundamental issues. These secondary issues are very sexy and attractive, but we need to talk about the fundamental issues. Parents have the right to the children. Children belong to the parents, not to the government. And right now, what our legislators think is that the children belong to the government, and
Right.
we need to level set them on this as well. And I said, every time you go to a meeting, I don't care, every town forum that they go to, somebody should be bringing it up, and you should be seeing them offline afterwards as well, and saying, okay, I've got a petition right here. Maybe we should start this. As a legislator, will you go to the family courts at least once a quarter, or will you watch hearings that we present to you? It's only 8 hours out of your 3 months that we want you to go there. This is your responsibility. How can you exercise your responsibility if you have no awareness of what's taking place? Anyway, I know we probably need to cut this short here, but
Well, I was going to just say, and kind of final thoughts or final next steps would be, Jeff, how can people reach you? Again, we talked about, of course, your YouTube channel. If they want to reach out and talk with you.
Yeah, I do. Also look, and I'm going to say a couple of things. Number one, the YouTube channel is good. I do have Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
I will also say as well, and I've got to make a disclaimer here too. I'm not like Taran said, I'm not an attorney.
No attorneys.
And the reality is that Dwayne, I'm older than you even, okay?
Yeah.
but probably 10 years or so. So
But
I'm
more
doing
handsome.
what
I'm just going to throw it out there right now. I mean, if we went in order, it'd be Jeff, Taran, then me. I'm just going to say that right now.
Okay.
Sorry, ladies. So Jeff is spoken for. So
yeah, we're all spoken for.
No sliding into his DMs.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not going to be a big problem. But anyway, I think that, we need to talk about how do we decentralize. Everybody has a special niche. Dwayne, you could talk about something. Taran, you're the FOIA man. I mean, where would we be without you doing FOIAs? And I think what you should be doing is saying, how do we train the next generation so that there's not just one Taran doing the work of 10 people. There's 10 people doing the work that Taran is now doing. And then we make 20 people out of that. Same thing with court watching. I mean, I do what I can, but I get requests all the time. I work full time. I've got a family to provide for. I'm hoping someday to retire. And obviously, I don't want to go to court and be thrown into jail for contempt of court either, right? I mean, I've got a stepson with special needs. But the thing is that we can all do something. And, the way I started, Dwayne, I remember, and I've talked with people about this, when I was on the Santorum campaign as a volunteer. And I remember people would say to Rick Santorum, Rick, what can we do? And his response was, I don't know what you can do, but you can do something. And I like that, because to me, I said, wow, that's a pretty low bar. I can do something. I don't know what that something is, but to do something, I can do something. And I mean, so I remember praying, Dwayne, and I said, God, what do I do? And he said, well, you have a camera, use it. I'm like, this is great. It's guided. I don't even know how to use a camera. I had one, but I didn't know how to use it. So, but I mean, here, 8-10 years later, don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of saying, look, I've really screwed up here. Are you going in the right direction? We need an army of us. And I mean, maybe Gideon's armies, it may be a small army, but we need to have people that we can trust, that have our backs. And one thing that I love being down there in Williamson County, and Karen and I talked about this, when we get together, it's like a reunion. We know that we have each other's backs. You got to, at least at the same time, you're asking the legislators to go into family courts at least once a quarter. Maybe you should do the same thing. Do not let a friend go into anti-family court alone. You be there. You help. And if you can't do it, get somebody else to be there. Educate. And but I would love to be able to say that I have all this free time and that's all I can do. The reality is I've been at the place that my wife has been saying, Jeff, you're going to have a heart attack if you don't back off a little bit. So I'm not trying to push things away, but you know what I'm saying. So.
All right. Taran, how can they reach out to you? Organizations, shoot.
So in general, right, you can reach out to me, Messenger. I may or may not respond. I don't respond a lot to strangers, stranger danger. Don't add me on Facebook because I won't add you back if I don't know who you are and haven't met you. But reach out. You know, I lurk on some of the pro se forums and stuff like that. Sometimes do that. There are plenty of videos of me doing things. Look at my attorney fee attack video. I think that's probably my gift to humanity as far as that. And I've done plenty of interviews with Jeff. But if you see me, say at the Capitol or at an event, please, you know, come say hi, and we can sit and chat and everything like that. I work real hard just to make certain that information is flowing, because that's what's important. We need to make certain that the public knows just what kind of sneaky crap is going on.
Yeah. Mark Esquivel also has a group. Mark might be, I mean, there's a lot of people here. I'm looking around, I'm seeing all these people. Dwayne, there's so many people here that have so much to offer. I mean, we're just, you know,
Yeah, I'm
we're all
just an
struggling.
amateur.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think that we ought to start talking about having educational seminars as well. You know, I'm just learning about FOIA, and it feels powerful but scary because of retaliation. And this is something that, you know, Taran he's the FOIA god. And I mean, and I've done interviews with him. We've got interviews about doing FOIAs. And I mean, I think that this is something that, look, if Taran spent a couple of hours saying, here's what you do, had a little bit of follow-up. There's also a guy out of Philadelphia that I'm going to recommend later on. His name's Larry DeMarco. He's an attorney. He's been out there for 25 years. Not a family law attorney, but for the last 4 years, he's put resources together, and he's put a course together. I think the course costs maybe $500. It's 6 weeks. It's got videos, everything else. You're going to get some one-on-one with him. But he said, Jeff, can you at least let people know about this? Because, you know, we are not attorneys. We can't do your work. But when you're going to spend $500 for an attorney, spend $500 on a guy who's going to teach you what you would need to know to basically become a paralegal in this type of, Pro Se Dad by Anthony Cancel. That's good too. So, but anyway, I think that we can look at the law is on our side. I believe as well. I don't know how many people have told me, Taran, God, you're doing God's work. And I mean, people that don't know me out of anywhere, people that I'm like, how would you know? But they're telling me you're doing God's work. So if God is on our side, we're doing God's work. We have an invisible army behind us. And
let's make it visible.
Yeah, right. Visible. Yeah, and I believe that's happening. I think that doors have opened that we have never should have opened for us. And I believe, from my perspective, is that God's opened doors.
Don't be afraid to stand up and call something out when it's wrong. If you look at Jeff's 2,100 videos, you know, Marshall Thompson apparently counted them. You know, his production quality at the very start may have been very low. He's become a very polished interviewer, a respected member of the media, and he got there just by doing it. I don't think I'm a genius or anything like that. I just read. And that's what y'all need to do. You need to read, and you need to be willing to put your foot down and say, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And so on that note, just to close up, once again, there needs to be cameras in the courtroom. There's a whole bunch of corruption in there, and
there are cameras in the courtroom that need to be activated to the public. We have already paid for them.
Turn them on.
All right, guys. Well, thank y'all for being on, talking about cameras in the courtroom. For everybody else out there, they said it much better than I will, or that I can, but I'd say get off your ass and do something. I mean, that's nothing else to be said. And with that, y'all have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you on the next time.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Dwayne.